What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on the Fearless Nick YouTube channel. And in today's video, it's going to be a little bit of a different video today. I don't normally do these sort of style of videos, but I thought I did need to address this because I've been seeing a lot of people, asking the same question, what are Richmond doing right, under Andrew Mcqualter, and I thought I just wanted to, give my sort of thoughts on, what I think's happening at Tigerland right now. If you guys go on to enjoy today's video, it would really, really mean heaps if you please leave a like, share with a mate, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Like I've said a number of times, I'm on the road now to 500 subs, and I'm trying to get there as soon as possible. So, yeah, if you do go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like, share with a mate, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But anyways, guys, let's get straight on into my thoughts about the Richmond Footy Club. So, if this is the first video you've watched of me, or if you've watched previous videos of me, you will know that I am actually a Tigers fan, and I do watch Richmond pretty closely week in, week out. So yeah, I have a vague idea of what we're doing right. But yeah, today I just wanted to address three things that I've noticed, when watching Richmond, under Damien Hardwick and now under Andrew Mcqualter, the changes that I've noticed and the improvements I've noticed. Obviously, there's probably more than, just three things we've improved on, but I think these are three things that have really, stood out to me so far, under Andrew Mcqualter compared to, Damien Hardwick. So the first thing I wanted to address in terms of the changes that have been made, transitioning obviously from Damien Hardwick to Andrew Mcqualter. The first thing I wanted to mention in today's video is looking at Richmond right now compared to earlier on in the season, the players look more motivated. Now, I know this might come across as a little bit harsh to some of you, and I'm sure, every Richmond player who, runs on the field week in, week out, does give 100% no matter what. I'm sure that's the case, and I'm sure I'm probably being a little bit harsh here, but early on in the season, I had a few concerns about, the motivation of the group. Was the hunger still there to, potentially, try and push for, another top four spot and maybe even another crack at a flag. I did really question, how motivated the players were earlier on in the season. Yes, we did have injuries and, you could make all that excuse up, but if your players aren't motivated, it's really, really hard to, push deep into September and finals. But I wanted to refer to games like the game against Sydney in Gabba round and against the D's on Anzac Day Eve. We were actually in those matches, right up until, the last quarter where we eventually got overran. And we've seen with teams like West Coast, even sometimes with Geelong at stages this year, that, the playing group is still there. But the players, it almost looks like they're not trying or they're just unmotivated. And maybe that probably wasn't the case, and maybe I'm an idiot. But like I said, this is just what I see. And, like I said earlier on in the season, it just occurred to me that, maybe the reason isn't because, we're too old or, we've got injuries. Maybe it's because our players aren't motivated. And under Andrew Mcqualter, though, we have looked so much more motivated to win. You look at our games, against St Kilda, against Freo, against GWS, and the game a couple of days ago against the Swans on Thursday night. We actually looked really, really motivated in those games under Andrew Mcqualter, and maybe because, a fresh face has, taken over the helm, that seems to be the consensus, the last couple of years. Obviously, you look at Collingwood with Craig McRae and what they've done. But like I said, this is just something I've noticed, watching Richmond. Comment down below if you've noticed the same thing. But yeah, I just think the players, they look so much more motivated, to get up and fight all the way to the end to win, and almost more hungry to, get the 4 points week in, week out. So I think that's definitely been a big improvement of Richmond as of recent times. Now moving on to my second point of the video, the second, big change and improvement that I've noticed under Andrew Mcqualter since he's taken over from Damien Hardwick. The second change I wanted to mention is a little bit more tactical and, a little bit more referred around the playing group and how they play. And I'm obviously referring to the coaching. Now, obviously, obviously, the coaching, it's obvious, there's a new coach, at the helm now, a bit of a fresh face, like I referred to earlier on in the video, which, like I said, it can be good for, players, getting that fresh face, after, I think spending, 13 years with Damien Hardwick. So that's a great serving by him. But like I've said, having that fresh face around the playing group, like I said, can give them more motivation to win maybe. But more specifically, what I've noticed on the field, as well as, obviously a new coach, that's pretty obvious. But the one thing I have really noticed, since Damien Hardwick has stepped down and Andrew Mcqualter's stepped up, is our structure. Our structure has really, really improved. If you watch Richmond very closely, now I know not all of you are probably Tigers fans. You're not as into the club as I am. I watch the team, like I said, pretty closely every week. But one thing I really have noticed as of late is our structure, and more specifically, our defense. Now, this could be a big call, but in my time watching Richmond play footy, I have never seen us as well structured defensively as I've seen under Andrew Mcqualter the last few weeks. Now, obviously under Damien Hardwick, he had a little bit of a different game style. He didn't really, focus on defense as much as, Andrew Mcqualter has. He's sort of more focused on, pressure and, the forward line, how we're going to score and, chaos footy, if you will, which has, been our brand, the Richmond brand for so long now. We're actually more well-structured behind the ball than we were, under Damien Hardwick. Because as we see now, Andrew Mcqualter, he does really value defence. And you look at, the amount of points we've conceded, I think ever since the GWS game, they've actually been reasonably low. Like we conceded 70 points against the Dockers. We conceded 70 points against St Kilda, albeit the Brisbane game, we did get smashed, but I still thought our defence was as good as it could have been on that night. But I have definitely noticed a big improvement in terms of the structure, and like I said, more specifically the defense. I think the defense has been very, very good the last couple of weeks. Like I said, albeit, the Brisbane game, was a bit of a one-off. But like I said, that wasn't really the defense's fault. They couldn't really do anything. It was all the midfield, that, let Brisbane have all that dominance. But yeah, I think definitely there's been a huge improvement, the last couple of weeks in terms of our defense, our structure behind the ball, and even, our structure up forward. Obviously, with Tom Lynch, being out for the rest of the year, obviously he's probably our number one key forward. He went down obviously earlier on in the year, so we did actually have to change our structure going forward. But I really like, the structure at the moment. Like I said, under Andrew Mcqualter, like I said, it's a little bit fresh, it's a little bit new. It might take, another year to fully perfect, but we're starting to see, what this team, can do, under a new game style, under a new coach. And I think that's really exciting, for Richmond fans like myself, having a new face with new ideas and a new, not game plan, but a new structure. And a bit more tactical and changing the way we play a little bit is definitely something that I've noticed in the last couple of weeks since Andrew Mcqualter has taken the helm. And the final change that I've noticed now, like I said, there's definitely more than the 3 changes I've mentioned in today's video. So like I said, remember to comment down below, more changes that you've noticed, since Andrew Mcqualter's taken over of the Richmond Footy Club. But the last change I have noticed, and I think this is probably one of the biggest changes that I've noticed out of all 3 of these changes that I've listed, is new players standing up in the big moments. Now, what I mean by this is players who were role players, I guess, or, sort of fringe players who, couldn't get a game, under Damien Hardwick, or, were in the side, but, like I said, were just role players, not real stars, who have now, since Andrew Mcqualter has taken over, these players have become absolute stars of the competition. Since Andrew Mcqualter has taken over, Nick Vlosten, Noah Bolter, Nathan Braun, and Jaden Short Obviously, Jaden Short is injured at the moment, but since Andrew Mcqualter has taken over, those 4 players have been absolutely crucial for our defense. Nick Vlaston especially, he's probably the biggest one who's, stood up this year. He's turned himself into one of the best intercept markers in the game under Andrew Mcqualter. Just reads the ball so well, and, he marks everything. I've barely ever seen him drop a mark, since Andrew Mcqualter's taken over. Whereas, like I said, under Damien Hardwick, Nick Vlaston, he wasn't really a star, but, he was just one of those, role players who, would play his role every week. But like I said, now under Andrew Mcqualter, Nick Vlaston has taken the next big step in his career and has probably turned himself into one of the most underrated key backs in the league, I would say. But like I said, under Damien Hardwick, players like Noah Bolter, Jaden Short and Nathan Broad, those 3, under Damien Hardwick, they were sort of, role players. They weren't real stars. They would just play their role every week and would sort of go under the radar. But then again, they weren't, some of the stars of the competition. But now, if you look at those 3, when they play, they have turned themselves into completely different versions of themselves. Jaden Short, who was once a very defensive style of a half-backer, you could say, under Damien Hardwick, has now completely, reshaped the way he plays. Obviously, he is injured at the moment, but if you've watched, the last month of Richmond, he has been a very crucial player, to the way we play as well. He's turned himself into one of the best offensive, attacking halfbacks in our entire team. Him and Daniel Rioli have, really, been a great partnership, so far this year. Noah Bolter and Nathan Broad, I'd probably say 2 of the most underrated, lockdown defenders. They're sort of a bit of a different style of a defender to, someone like a Nick Vlaston. Nick Vlaston's often the guy who, would take the big intercept mark down there, and, got Noah Bolter and Nathan Broad, who would often, take the opposition's best or second best forwards and, really, take them out of the game and do a quite solid job down there. Whereas, in previous years, they would, be solid role players, but they would still, concede goals, every now and then. But now if you watch, Noah Bolter and Nathan Broad play, they are often taking, the opposition's best forward or second best forwards, like I said. And they're really, taking them out of the game. I watched Nathan Broad, I think it was against Geelong. He completely shut down Jeremy Cameron, who, we all know is one of the best forwards in the competition. And Noah Bolter did a fantastic job on Max King, who, we all think is one of the stars of the comp. So, those 2 performances from those 2 individuals have really, stood out to me. But then you also look at, players who under Damien Hardwick were probably, not even, getting a game, earlier on in the season. Players like Jack Ross, Jack Graham, Ben Miller, Jack Ross and Jack Graham, especially on Thursday night against the Swans. Those 2 were so impactful and had such big moments and big roles to play in that game, and they played them beautifully. I think Ross kicked about 2 or maybe even 3 goals, I can't remember, and Jack Graham kicked a huge goal late in the game to give us a 7-point lead. Those 2 are going to be so important for us long term, and now under Andrew Mcqualter, like I said, they've taken their games to the next level and almost, best 22 players, whereas, like I said, under Damien Hardwick, they would be lucky to be even on the bench, in Damien Hardwick's team, a couple of years ago. And, you even look at players, who have come into the side this year from other teams such as, Tim Taranto and Jacob Hopper. Obviously, Hopper's, we haven't seen a whole lot of him this year. He's been, injured. He was out for a little bit this year. But I know I didn't watch, many GWS games, but I don't think I've ever seen Tim Taranto in better form than he is right now. He has turned himself into an absolute gun of a midfielder, and I feel like he's a player who has really, blossomed under Andrew Mcqualter. Under Damien Hardwick's rule, players like Taranto and Hopper, who were new to, the Richmond system and the Richmond game style, I'm not going to lie, they looked a little bit restricted earlier on in the year. Obviously, Hopper did miss a few games with injury, but, someone like a Taranto looked quite restricted, under Damien Hardwick. It looked like he was sort of forced, to adjust his game to, suit the Richmond game style. Whereas now under Andrew Mcqualter, obviously Hopper is starting to find his feet as well now, which is really good to see. But under Andrew Mcqualter, a player like Tim Taranto has really thrived, and it looks like he's sort of been free of that, restriction that he was under Damien Hardwick. If you watch Taranto right now, he looks like he's playing with so much more freedom under Andrew Mcqualter. It looks like Andrew Mcqualter is sort of letting him, play the way he knows how to play, which is really great because it looks like he's back to, playing his best footy. And in my opinion, Taranto right now, he's probably one of the best recruits of the entire trade period last year. And on top of all that, you've got players like Toby Nankervis, who's, really stepped up this year. Obviously, he's been suspended, for the next couple of weeks for that bump on Jake Lloyd. But, you look at someone like a Toby Nankervis, and this is another big call. I don't think I've ever seen Toby Nankervis as aggressive and as fierce as he is right now. Like, he is playing with a new aggression and almost new confidence in himself. Also players, who, are probably on the outer, Dustin Martin, looks like he's almost not quite back to his absolute peak, but it looks like he's, almost got this new confidence in himself as well, under a fresh face in Andrew Mcqualter. So that's really good to see. A fit and firing Dusty's, always very good to see. And even some of the, the lesser likes at Richmond, some of the young guns at Tigerland, such as Judson Clark, Noah Cumberland, Morris Rioli, and Samson Ryan, who have, been inconsistent. I'm not going to lie, they have shown, a bit of inconsistency in their game. So that's obviously, the next step they've got to go in their careers. But at times this year, I think all four players there that I've mentioned have shown really, really promising signs, so far this year. And I think players like Morris Rioli and Samson Ryan in particular have really, adjusted to the Andrew Mcqualter game very, very well. And the last player I want to mention in today's video, now I wasn't actually going to mention him until I saw the Sydney game on the Thursday night a couple nights ago, but Tyler Young, what an absolute find he has been for our backline. Obviously, our backline this year has probably been the most injury hit out of all the positions this year. Players like Robbie Tarrant and Josh Gibcurst, Jaden Short's now out. Players like that, who have been, hit by injury and, interrupted seasons. Tyler Young has really taken his game to the next level. Now, I know a lot of you probably watching this, who's Tyler Young and, who's that Nick's rambling on about. But Tyler Young, number 45 for Richmond, you look at him under Damien Hardwick, he was getting a couple of games, but I'm not going to lie, Tyler Young, like a couple of our younger, prospects, did look a little bit lost earlier on in the year under Damien Hardwick. But now under Andrew Mcqualter, Tyler Young, he could potentially be our next, Noah Bolter or even Dylan Grimes back there. Because he has really, taken his game to the next level and has come so far this year under Andrew Mcqualter. But one thing that really did catch my eye when watching Tyler Young play was his speed and his athleticism. He absolutely destroyed, the likes of Buddy Franklin in that game against Sydney. And I think if he continues this good form, throughout the coming years, even when the likes of Dylan Grimes, Robbie Tarrant, potentially hang up the boots, he is going to be an unreal player, Tyler Young. Definitely a player who's, really thrived and, taken the next step under Andrew Mcqualter. Tyler Young's another player who's really, come a long way this year, especially under Andrew Mcqualter's coaching. So there we go, guys. That was my my little ramble about, the changes at Richmond, the last month, since Andrew Mcqualter's, taken over from Damien Hardwick. Like I said, there's probably way more than, these 3 changes that I've listed in today's video. But yeah, I thought I wanted to do this video, just for a little bit of a sit down and chat video about, what's happening at the Richmond Footy Club. Like I said, you know, being a Tigers fan, I do watch Richmond very, very closely every single week. Remember to comment down below, you know, some changes that you've noticed at Richmond, you know, the last few weeks. If you're a Tigers fan, let me know down below in the comments. If you did go on to enjoy today's video and you want to see more videos, you know, potentially like this in the future, then, you know, leave a like, share with a mate, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like I said, every sub really means the world. I'm trying to get to 500 subs as soon as possible, so if you could please hit the big red subscribe button, that'd be very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in my next video. Cheers!